So today happens to be the 8-year anniversary of my daughter's father's suicide. And so what better video to do today than giving you tips on how to parent a child who's experienced traumas. Here we go.
This is your life, no one else has gotta live it. This is your fight that only you can win.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Freedom Friday, where you learn how to free yourself and live your dreams. I'm Darienne, your certified spiritual rock star. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you would like to get videos just like these every single week, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Also, if you're interested in joining my weekly Empire updates through email, you can click right here and you will get a free guided meditation to help you raise your vibrations. So I actually wrote lots of notes down to do this video probably about 2 months ago. And I just filmed 2 videos in a row, and I was gonna do the one that I filmed prior this week, and then I realized that today is, even though I don't ever celebrate the death anniversary of my daughter's father, it just so happens to be today. Usually I celebrate his birthday, which is in a couple weeks. So I figured what better time than to do this particular video. So don't mind me if I get emotional. I don't know why I will, but I mean, obviously I do know why I will, but usually I have no problem talking about my daughter's father, but I did ask him to come through and help me with this, so I feel his presence here and I'm probably gonna get emotional. But if you have found this video, you're probably in the same state right now. So I really learned a lot. I mean, I have to say, just in general, my first daughter, I had her when I was 19 years old, and then her father chose to take his own life when I believe I was 24 years old. Yes. And so, you know, having to have parented her while having to go through my own mourning, and I was still healing and recovering from a very long depression myself. And so I had to make sure that I did things right. And here's the thing that I've learned about being a child who's experienced traumas. I have experienced sexual traumas in my life, and also having a child who's experienced traumas, which for her it was the suicide of her father, which can be very obviously traumatic. What I realized was that children who suffer with trauma absolutely have the ability to grow up as normal people and not be like, you know, when we go to therapy and we're like, well, I do this because I have all this trauma, and I do this because I have all this trauma. The fact of the matter is, when these children have a guidance system, like a parent, especially a parent, when these children have a guidance system like a parent, to be able to guide them through the healing process properly, it is, and I know this from seeing my daughter right now. She is now 13 years old, and she is one of the most healthy 13-year-olds, emotionally healthy 13-year-olds I think I've ever seen. And so, of course, we have normal 13 hormonal things that happen, but compared to what I was at 13, she's fantastic. And so, you know, I just realized that, like, I think that we think once a trauma happens, it's just stamped in you, and like you're gonna have to deal with that when you're grown. And that's not really the truth. We really can be these beautiful incubators for them in order to heal and have a really essentially normal life, which is crazy, but take it from me, I am both a child who has experienced traumas, and I have one as well. So, you know, not to say that things can't come out later on, but I'm gonna give you 5 tips to help you in parenting your child who may have experienced some traumas. So the first tip, and of course these are in no particular order, but the first tip that may be difficult for you being the parent and feeling so terribly sorry for your child. Of course, if your child's been through something that you couldn't protect them from, that can be very painful. But my advice, and of course I'm not this expert, but I am experienced, my advice would be do not treat them differently because of the trauma. So what this meant was I chose, when I was raising my daughter after her father left us, I chose to not look at her as less than or look at her as having less because of this experience. So I didn't have this inappropriate pity on her. That really is, that is your ego. That is your ego, to look at your child and go, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to you. That's totally your ego. And I'm going to give you some other tips later on with how to help with that. But do not treat them differently, because they're going to use that to their advantage, and not in this way like they're going to be these spoiled little kids or anything like that, but they're going to learn that they now have an identity in their trauma and that they get more love because of their trauma. And that should never be the case. That's not what you want to teach your children. You want to teach your children that they get love because they are who they are, because they are. And not because the trauma gets them extra attention or extra pity, or they can get people to do things because they've been through a trauma. And it really only makes them get into a victim mentality, which works against them, okay? So the next tip that I think is kind of a no-brainer, but I want you to really be cognizant of this. Surround them with absolute love and support, both yours and other adults, but also keep them from the opposite, right? So now I absolutely love my daughter's family. They are 1000% loving and supportive, my daughter's father's family. They always have been. But when this first happened, I wasn't sure where people's heads were at. I wasn't sure if some adult was going to be, not necessarily in the family, maybe extended family, maybe friends. I wasn't sure if any adult was going to come and say something inappropriate like, this is your mama's fault. Or I could just picture one of his friends saying something like that to her at that time. And, or just saying something inappropriate that is going to just influence my child. The fact of the matter is, most people, especially with any trauma, most people don't know how to handle it. They are not emotionally equipped to be appropriate emotionally when it comes to any kind of trauma, especially when it's like suicide or your child has been through a sexual trauma, anything like that. Most people don't know how to handle it. And so I kept my daughter away from pretty much everybody unless I was going to be there, unless I absolutely knew and I preempted them. This is the kind of conversation we're having. I made sure that she was going to be surrounded by love, support, and emotionally appropriate people. And if I wasn't sure that people are going to be emotionally appropriate, they either did not get to see her for a long time, or I prepped them. This is the kind of conversation you're going to have with them. This is the way we talk about it, yada, 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 right? And I would definitely suggest for you, if you're not equipped with that information either, to go to a therapist. Ask a therapist, how am I supposed to handle this before? Honestly, I really feel like isolate your child from everyone other than the most loving people you possibly can surround them with. And again, don't treat them any differently, just surround them with loving people, right? It's not loving people that are going to dote on them just because of the trauma, or treat them any differently, because they're going to notice that. They're going to be like, why is everybody treating me differently? So definitely, that would be my advice. This was the most important thing that I had to be extremely, excruciatingly cognizant about within myself, and I urge you to do the same. Keep your emotions out of it. When you are handling your child's emotions and situations and you say, let's talk about what happened to you. How do you feel? There's going to come a time when you're going to want to cry during this situation. You need to keep your emotions out of how they feel. Don't paint their emotions with your own. Don't misconstrue their emotions with your own. You feel the way you feel, they feel the way they feel. Now, you are mourning as well. When your child goes through a trauma, you also have to mourn that trauma as well. So you need to give yourself the proper time and space to work on yourself. But your child is not to be there for you emotionally. You are only to be there for them emotionally. You need to go see a therapist, see a loved one, see another adult to help you, or call on God and the source's energy to be able to help you heal and work through your shit. But just to be able to keep those separate. But at the same point, you don't want to hide your emotions completely from your children. There were times when I would look at pictures of my daughter's father and I would just weep. And I showed her my emotions, but I made it very clear to her, because I think it's important to show your emotions, but I made it very clear to her that my emotions were not her responsibility, that it was okay for me to be crying. That if she felt like crying, she could too. If she didn't, that was okay too. But I am my own responsibility, that mommy has her own emotions to deal with, and you can deal with yours in your own way. You can come and talk to me whenever you want, whenever you feel you need to. But right now, I just need to cry. Not your problem. You can hug me if you want to hug me, but you don't have to. You can, so she would bring me tissues all the time. My daughter was the sweetest. And, it's just important to let them know, don't be afraid of the emotions. You gotta really show, you gotta really love yourself through this whole process too. But really it's important to know and let them know that your emotions are separate from theirs, and don't make it about you. Holy moly. So many people, I can't tell you how many parents have children that have gone through trauma and they make it all about them. I mean, I love my mother to death, but even my own mother, when the day I had the detective on the phone telling me that my daughter's father had just shot himself, my mom was freaking out more than I was. And it was like, Ma, this is my thing. Stop it. Go do that somewhere else. And it was wildly inappropriate. Of course, she didn't know how to handle a situation like that. And so again, most people don't know how to handle a situation like that. And so that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to freak out for them. You just want to hold your own, freak out, when they're not around. But when you're ready to allow yourself to cry, that's also okay. Okay, here's your next tip. This is one that will never end, okay? This, for the rest of their lives, this is one that you are going to want to follow in order to make sure that they lead healthy lives. And that is always, always keep the conversation open and keep the doorway open. Now, don't force them to talk about things that they don't want to talk about, but you let them know, mommy or daddy or whomever you are is always here to talk to you. Now, here are some tips on how to do that. Again, of course, you got to deal with your own emotions. You got to keep your shit out of it. You can't have a conversation with them if you're going to get emotional, because then they're going to think every time mommy talks about this, she cries, so I'm never going to talk about it. Okay? Get it? So what you want to do is be natural. Don't make it weird. Don't make it awkward. As you need to understand that you are the parent, you are the adult, and you are leading the conversation, okay? So you lead the conversation and you say, is there anything that you want to know about what happened? For me, it was, suicide. Of course, I was very honest with my daughter, but it was age appropriate when it came to the suicide. She knew probably like a year or two later, maybe a couple years later, she pretty much figured it out that he did commit suicide. But I did tell her, Daddy's heart was hurting. He did choose to go, and it was age appropriate. But throughout the years and even just today, we had an easy breezy conversation about depression and suicide. And, she had some questions, and I was like, sure, I'll answer any question you have. And if I don't know the answer to it, let's look it up. Let's talk to somebody. So you really want to educate yourself. Depending on the trauma, you want to obviously talk to a therapist. Kylie never went into therapy about it because for me, I did attempt to put her into a group, but there was nothing available at the time. And then I just realized, I didn't want to put her in a group that was going to make her feel more separated and make her feel as if she was growing an identity based off of the trauma that she had been through. I just really didn't trust other people. Like, I didn't want her being around other parents that didn't know how to handle a trauma. And so I couldn't guarantee, there's too many variables. So, and I always asked her, if you want to go into therapy at any point, you're more than welcome to. There's no shame in it. I had a therapist, but I'm always here to talk to you. If it's a sexual trauma, I highly would suggest you putting them into some sort of healthy therapy. You check the therapist out first. Just know, you're in control, but definitely keeping the conversation open and just being relaxed about it. And then the last and final one, which I kind of pointed on a little bit earlier, is be the example. You have to show them how to heal in a healthy manner emotionally. You need to show them how it is possible to heal through a trauma and still live a happy and healthy life. That it's okay to feel emotions, that there are times where it's been 8 years and I still get emotional sometimes. But, it's just, for me, I suffered with depression for a very long time, and my daughter's father committed suicide. So he basically probably had an undiagnosed depression, and I had to tell her I was still going through depression. I had to keep the conversation open. I had to say, listen, mommy's laying in bed for 3 days and can't get out because I have this mental illness called depression. I go and I see a doctor and I do my very best, and I did not make any promises I couldn't make, because I can't sit here and promise mommy's never going to do what daddy did. But I did say, and I didn't say that to her. I wasn't like, I don't know, maybe one day I'll come in. I would never say that, but I didn't make any false promises. So don't do that. Don't be unrealistic. Don't be like, I will never let anybody touch you like that again, or I will never let this happen to you again, because it's not true. You can't guarantee something like that. But what I could guarantee to her was that I am going to do the very best that I can to help myself. And that's all I can promise. We have this urge to want to be superhumans to our children. And then our children develop this idea that we are superhumans, but we are not. And I think the best gift that you can give to your child, especially one that's suffering through trauma, but any child, is to teach them that you are a human being and you're totally okay with that. And they should be too. Because this idea of humans having to be perfect is fucking crazy. So it doesn't benefit anyone. All right. So I just want to send you so much love. And I want to show you that there is hope. My daughter is a beautiful girl inside and out. She She has amazing friends. She has the ability to be there. Let's just be clear. She has been there for other kids who've lost their parents, and she's been a shoulder for them to cry on. She's been there to talk to them, and she's just a really amazing kid. And I know that that has a lot to do with how I parented her through this process. So there is hope. You just have to really be aware, intentional, and cognizant of, and really conscious of how you are going about this entire situation. So I send you and your child, or any child that any reason you're watching this video, I send you all so much love and the hope and knowledge that it is totally possible to lead a happy and healthy life, even despite anything you've gone through in your life, and that this doesn't have to plague them when they're older or anything like that, okay? I'm sending you guys so much love. Please, down below, let me know if this helped you. I really want, if you feel called and if you feel comfortable, I would love to hear from you. Of course, reach out to me anywhere else throughout social media. Reach out to me privately. If you want to just share a thank you with me and you aren't comfortable with doing that publicly. Again, your children are sacred. Your relationship with your children is sacred. Both your emotions and your healing and your child's emotions and healing are sacred as well. I send you so much love, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Hi guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to check me out on social media at Darienne Empire, both on Instagram and on Facebook. I also have a Facebook group called #RockinEmpath to get some support if you are a highly sensitive person or empath. And until next week, make sure you check out this video from the archive. Bye guys.